So, my name is Brad Logston. I'm a producer at Trendy Entertainment working on Dungeon Defenders 2, and here we are at the wonderful PAX East.
So how is the Dungeon Masters expanded from the first game?
So Dungeon Defenders 2 is a spiritual sequel to the first one. So we've made a couple of small changes to improve the gameplay, but it's very similar to what a lot of our fans know from before. One of the big things that we've done is really try to make all the action a lot more tight and quick. So before in the game, when you do certain things like repairing or upgrading or building, you'd be rooted in motion, you couldn't move around. Now you can move around, you can do things like fight and combat while you're repairing and upgrading. That's a really big deal. Another big change is our new combo system. So our game is cooperative. You play with your friends, and it's exciting for us. But in the first game, you really couldn't interact with your friends. You could just build your own stuff, do your own abilities, and that was it. Now we have this combo system where abilities and towers or defenses can actually key off of each other and do interesting things. So for example, we have our lightning aura. It's a defense that the monk can build, and it shocks enemies, it does damage. But if a huntress builds a geyser trap in front of one, it'll shoot enemies up in the air, but it'll add this wet debuff to them. So when they get hit with a lightning aura, they actually can get stunned because they're wet. That's just one way how, like, if I build a tower and you build a certain type of defense or if you certain ability, we can actually play together and interact together in really cool ways.
What have you learned from the first game that you've applied to this new game in terms of fan feedback?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us has been polish. You know, people really loved the first game, but there were a lot of rough edges around the sides. You know, we were a small studio back then, about 14 or 15 people. Now the team is much bigger, and so we've really committed to ourselves to making the game a lot more accessible so that the things that we're doing are really polished, they're really easy to approach when you first play. You know, here at PAX, we're finding people's picking up the game within a very short period of time, whereas before it took a couple games before you really figured out the mechanics, and that's been very important to us.
You guys are right next to Riot Games, the king of eSports. What eSports potential do you see with this game?
Well, right now we're focused purely on a cooperative experience. So it's really about playing with your friends and figuring out the best way to play with them. We do have ideas down the road for doing some competitive ideas, but you know, there's not really a lot of really high quality cooperative games out there. And we find that, you know, you watch games like Borderlands or Warframe, people love playing a game where it's not how much better I am against the guy next to me or a guy across the aisle, it's how do we work together to make something really fun happen. And we're really believing in that right now for Dungeon Defenders 2.
Give us a sense of the world and the universe that you guys have created here with Dungeon Defenders.
Yeah, sure. So in the first game, it was kind of a kid's story. You know, you're in the castle, you make a mistake, the Eternity crystals get shattered, and the old ones are released, and so you're dealing with that. But it wasn't a very deep story. It was relatively simple. On the second game, you're older now, you're now teenagers, and the world is at war. So the old ones have come back, they're invading Etheria, you have towns that are under siege, you have objectives that you're trying to protect. Like in the first map of the game, you have this caravan that's coming through, and the caravan is broken down, and you're trying to protect it before they can bring it into the city walls. So we really tried to bring the world a lot more to life. And even with the way we've designed our maps, we've done that. So in the first game, you were in the castle, but the maps weren't connected in any way, shape, or form. Now you can see that map that you played just a little while ago and the distance from the map that you're on right now. And you really feel like the world is laced together, and it's a very dynamic experience.